very healthy looking women who work out have come up to me and told me they're osteopenic. And they're really devastated by that. They thought they were doing everything right.
How do healthy women have bad bones?
Because it matters where you're starting. Well, I can think of a lot of reasons that young girls still living in a world where they are taught to be teeny tiny don't eat enough. Bones need food. They need minerals and protein. So there's a whole generations of young women who don't build bone because they're amenorrheic for whatever reason. If you're that sedentary, you're not maximizing bone density because you're not running around and jumping.
Dr. Vonda Wright, I'm so glad to be here with you at the
Yes.
Health Optimization Summit in London.
It's funny, we talk a lot
Yes.
together, and funny to meet in another country. I'm so happy to see you and talk to you.
I know, I love it. I love it that we're both speakers here
Yes.
and we're both talking about our thing. And they set up a podcast studio for us so we can
great.
actually have other people hear what you're going to be talking about on stage, or what
Yeah.
you talked about on stage already, which is what I want to bring to more people through
Wonderful.
the podcast.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much.
I love it. So maybe we framed the discussion and the conversation we had yesterday about how women right now in the current, for most women, what ends up happening is they know about menopause and perimenopause, but you just kind of keep barreling through life until you get there because you're told that until you get there, there's probably nothing much you can do about it or to think about it. And then you end up hitting kind of like this brick wall. And then, some women are just told to just deal with it and get through it. Some women are like, they have access to information and they see a hormone replacement doctor. But it's a lot of like doing a lot of things really late in the game.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you just wrote a book called Unbreakable about bringing the thought process much more forward, not just in just treatment, but preventative care for these women and just starting, and before preventative, proactive, right?
Exactly.
So can you unpack that a little bit for us? What does that mean?
You know what? I think in the worlds that you and I are most frequently in, women are having conversations about their midlife and aging.
Right.
I will tell you, however, that I think that we somewhat live in a bubble because we're in this all the time. And I have patients coming into my orthopedic clinic. I still see patients once or twice a week that actually have never heard of it. And so you can't work on something you've never really heard of.
Right.
Or maybe you heard of your mother going through the change. So I have people on that end of the spectrum. But then I also, very encouragingly, had 2 women in their early 40s last week come in for my more one-on-one care. And they were 43 and 46. And they're like, we are just going to get in front of this. We have to know all the things. And I want everybody to be like those women.
Yes.
But I would like everyone not to start then, but to start at least as they're deciding in their 30s. Maybe they've decided to never have children, or maybe they've decided, okay, this is enough. What's the rest of my life? Well, the rest of your life is prevention. Because what Unbreakable is trying to bring to the forefront is that men and women age differently. And that has a lot to do not with just the hallmarks of aging, which I call the time bombs of aging, because they can literally explode your life if we don't get in front of them. But it not just due to those, but the differences in our hormone behavior. And the reason I say hormone behavior is that men have estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, just like women do, but they behave different. Men may peak out at 30 and have just slow, steady decline until midlife, and where there might be a more significant, but by and large, we're on top of that. For women, you have your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and then all of a sudden, there is this seismic shift in production of the primary regulator, which is estradiol, as the ovaries have so few eggs left that there's just not enough follicle or eggshell, if you will, to produce the levels of estrogen that our bodies are used to. And when that happens, women's aging changes in a seismic way. Our brain is covered with estrogen receptors. And the work of a scientist named Robbie Brinton shows that the brain changes chemistry, physiology without estrogen. women start having a rapid increase of microvascular heart disease.
Mm.
Not the big vessel heart disease that men get, but microvascular, you may not even, most women don't even know it's happening until it's significant. And then not to mention the musculoskeletal changes, women triple their loss of bone during perimenopause from about 1% a year to 3% a year. So that after the 5 to 7 years that you're ignoring this, you've lost 20% of your bone density,
Wow.
right? So what if we don't wait until the arbitrary day of menopause, the 366th day after your last period? Who even knows,
Yes.
right? That is an arbitrary number made up decades ago within the OB community. The aging rapidly starts happening a decade before that at
A
least, right?
decade before.
So the median age of perimenopause, and I air quote that because we don't really know when the ovary starts declining. We do know at 40, women have only 1% of their eggs left.
Mm.
So it stands to reason
Yep.
that it's as early as 40, sometimes earlier. What if we didn't wait
Right.
until the damage was so significant and yet usually undetected? What if the minute women decided they're done with children, or the minute a woman turns 30, she's like, okay, I'm about to enter the next phase. I'm plateauing my muscle, my bone, my brain's finally mature. What am I going to do next? What am I going to do during? I like to make up words. I made up a word for this transition women go through called menolescence.
Menolescence.
The menolescence with a nod to adolescence, which
Yeah.
is chaos. But we all remember that.
Right.
Menolescence can be that chaotic. But what if we start planning for that?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to become extremely literate on what's happening next and
Right.
not just like, oh, I don't know, right?
Right.
What if we learn enough about hormone optimization that we not only know what we want to optimize, but where we're going to get it?
Yes.
So that we're not in this desperate search, because not everybody is skilled in optimizing hormones.
Sure.
What if younger we start setting the building an unbreakable lifestyle so that we have the standards of how are we going to eat in an anti-inflammatory way? How are we going to lift in a way that builds strength and power? How are we going to change the way we do cardio? Because if it is your lifestyle since the time you're 30, I'm going to tell you for sure, it's easier than becoming 50 something and all of a sudden having to scramble to change
For
everything.
sure. Yeah.
And so that's what, from a preventive standpoint, I would love to see the shift happen.
Yes. Uh-huh. And it's, I think you mentioned a few aspects that many women don't consider because they're a
Yeah.
little bit invisible, right?
Yeah.
So, microvascular disease of the heart,
Yeah.
you're not going to feel that. It's very
No.
hard to even understand that that's happening,
Yes.
but it is definitely happening.
Absolutely.
Brain changes as well. I think what happens over time is that you get used to the brain that you're in, and then that brain continues to change, but you kind of move with it over time.
Yeah.
And then you kind of forget, how did I think when I was 29 years old?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How was my brain functioning back then?
Yeah.
And you just realize things were a lot better back then, but I can't really quantify it.
Yeah.
So I think there is a little bit of a leap of faith that you have to make, that you need to start early, right? And
I think women, when it comes to brain, you've
Yeah.
probably heard this. Women tease about mommy brain.
yeah.
What happens? Oh, I can't remember. I have mommy brain. Well, that's hormonal,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And so you're able to recognize that something's going on.
Yeah.
But then I hear women really joking. I can't remember my keys. I look for my keys in the freezer, right?
Yeah.
But it's not a joke.
No.
It wasn't a joke when I forgot my nouns. And the way it feels to me, these subtle changes, because you're right, I didn't realize that I did a VO2 max. I'm rolling my eyes because that was not fun. And had all this Boston cardiac workup just for information
hmm
to find out my microvascular disease. Well, that's extensive to have to do that stuff. And most people don't have access
Right.
like I do, right? So they don't know. For the brain part, I could feel it because the only way I could quantify it is Because I'm a surgeon, we have to remember a lot of stuff at all
A lot
times
of
and make
things,
quick
right?
decisions that it's almost like the tip of a knife, the tip of a spear. Um, I felt like when I was going through this before I optimized my hormones, that instead of a sharp pencil lead,
Hmm.
just that
Yep.
sharpness, like everything I had access to, I could memorize a lot of stuff at
Right.
once. I could just glance at a phone number and know it without
Right.
having to memorize it.
Right.
I was now working with a dull pencil lead.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
still had a pencil lead, but it wasn't. So that's hard to quantify. Like that is
Yeah.
it's not like I'm saying, oh, I'm 6.25% worse. It's like
Yeah.
I've got a dull pencil lead. So I think
Right.
your point is well taken.
Yeah.
It's hard to know we're preventing something if we can't even describe it very well.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify it, but there are some quantifiable measures that we have
Mhm.
access to now.
Mhm.
A lot of stuff that you talk about, like grip strength, for
Mhm.
example.
Mhm.
Can you maybe let's talk about some of the physical
Yeah.
markers of strength, power
Yeah.
that women can track
Can
over
do.
time? Yeah,
Well, I love this you brought this up too because I thought that was so important that we start somewhere.
right.
That in Unbreakable, the whole first section of the book starts out with this is the science of aging. You're smart people. I'm going to tell you about 6 of the 13 hallmarks of aging that I think are really important so that you can put it together with what we're going to ask you to do.
Right.
And then
There's
there's an
assessments,
assessment,
right?
right? We made my very smart data scientist and I said, "Here's the assignment.
Mhm.
Here are the top 8 longevity biomarkers
Mm,
uh, that have great data. I want you to analyze the papers and weigh them.
mm,
What is the top one? What is the second? And then we put 8 of them and teach you how to do it in the book so that you and weigh your score so that we give you an unbreakable score, not as a criticism, but as an observation so that when you implement the activities for physical and mental resilience, you can retest.
yeah.
So, number 1 is VO2 max, the ultimate measure of fitness. And why is that so important? It's so important that without reinvestment, we will lose 10% of our VO2
Yeah.
max per decade.
Hmm.
So that means if we're starting with a low VO2 max in midlife, and every 10 years we're going to lose 5%, we're going to cross something called the fragility line, which is the line after which you can't get up from a chair by yourself,
Mm,
which is the line that you lose your independence
yeah.
and have to either move in with your kid or into a facility.
Right.
You never want to reach that.
Never.
You'll never know what you are unless you get that measured. So
Hmm.
VO2 max, uh, walking speed is important, sit to stand is important,
Yep.
grip strength is a good measure, not because I want you to squeeze a tennis ball more, but because it's a proxy for mortality. It's estimated with a loss of 5 kilograms of grip strength in your dominant hand, it infers a 16% increase in all-cause mortality because it's connected to how strong your whole body is.
Right.
So, there are other ones like the step-up test, but of all the 8, these are the ones that have some data attached to mortality, longevity.
Yeah. The sit to stand test in my practice, I think it's the most, when you can't do it without assistance,
Yeah.
going down and up, you have almost like a physical shift. And I could see people physically shift in their mindset like,
Mm.
wait, when did I lose that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When did I lose that ability to be able to stand up without using my arms?
Yeah.
And it really gives people a kind of moment in time, to your point, which is why I love the test at the beginning of your book. It gives people a moment in time to
Mhm.
know
Yeah.
that when they've lost something or if they're on the track to losing it. And
Mhm.
without doing these tests, you never know. And
Right.
unfortunately, you find yourself at 50 years old,
Mhm.
unable to sit to stand with the low VO2 max, with the grip
Mhm.
strength in the bottom 25th percentile.
Mhm.
And by then, it's so hard to reverse this,
It is
right?
hard.
Yeah.
You may be able to maintain, but to really get 20 or
Hmm.
something percent back hard. I love that you said that about there's this, can I even do I mean, people kind of do this. They're looking around, can I
Yeah.
even do this? Wait, how do I sit down without my hands? I mean,
Right.
there's some thought involved, and it's shocking to people.
Vonda, you know what else is shocking? Jumping.
Oh, it is. People are afraid to jump.
People are afraid to jump from the floor to a box.
Yes.
Because they think in their brain they're going to fall.
They're going to trip.
Right. People don't know how high they can jump or not.
And so jumping up is very fear laden. Even when I say, okay, so don't jump up, jump down, people haven't jumped in a while. It's the same reaction when I encourage people from a cardiac standpoint to sprint. Because everybody thinks of the track sprinting, which less than 1% of people do. It's really a heart rate measure. But it is funny to me when I first read that less than 1% of adults go fast.
Right.
Like sprint.
Sprint, right?
It's not because they can't, it's because they don't, and then they can't, right?
Exactly.
They don't, then they can't.
Right.
Or they're like, wait a minute, I haven't sprinted for a while.
I might fall. I might trip on myself.
I might pull something.
Yes.
And you might, if you haven't done it for 50 years, 30 years, whatever. But this mindset we're talking about, we just give up one thing at a time.
Exactly. That's my point exactly. You give up one thing at a time until you forgot you even gave it up.
Right.
And then you end up not being able to do those things. And that's when you become frail.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And frailty can happen not just to 89-year-olds.
Right.
You know, I've had 57-year-olds break their hip, interestingly, because they were in general frail. So it can happen if we're not paying attention to ourselves.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm in my 50s and I go on these health retreats that people come to. And many of the people are also in their 50s.
Yeah.
And it's very surprising to me how many people have not jumped or sprinted or done, you know, some of the things that we've talked about.
Yeah.
For many years, often even for like 20 years.
Yes, exactly.
And you have to, it's almost like taking them back to PE class in high school to get them
Adult
to do these
PE.
things. Adult PE.
That might be a thing, actually.
It should be a
It
thing,
should be
right?
a thing.
Yeah, because unfortunately we do lose these things way too early now. And to your point, 30 is a really good age to get started on this journey of prevention for men and women, but especially for women, because women do have that kind of massive drop off in their hormones, right? So we talked about strength. We talked about jumping and maintaining abilities. What about bone health? How do women maintain bone health?
You know what? I was so thankful when I was originally on your podcast. I had just started trying to make bone sexy.
Yeah.
Or I say sexy again, it's really probably never sexy. But because bone is the forgotten critical component to aging, because you may do all the brain exercises you want. You may have been in the gym and you've got some decent muscle mass, but if you don't have, we already said people don't jump and skip. And so you might not have the agility not to fall down.
Right.
And if you fall down and break, even if you've got good muscle and good brain, it's changing your life forever.
Yeah.
Because if you fall and break your hip, for instance, I like to do this now. The minute you fall and your femur fractures, it's a 30% chance of dying.
30% chance of dying.
And that is, people do comment on this when I say this on the internet, but yes, that is for people in their 70s and 80s, but we're all going to be that age.
Yeah.
And 50% of the time, you don't go home because you've lost so much function or you're so dysfunctional at that point. That's how you fell down in the first place. So what is the choice then? The choice is hire somebody full-time. That's hard to afford. Move in with your kid. Everybody says to me, I don't want to burden my kids. Well, let's get after it then with our bones. Move into a facility which eats up your life savings, and then you have to go on Medicaid. And that's not a pretty picture, right? So bones are critical, and we think of them as structural. Like I-beams in a building. I love to say that, and they do that. They give us human form. Without bones, literally, your skin and muscle is just a heaping pile of metabolic tissue.
Exactly.
It's like a chicken breast on a table. But with bones, you have structure. You're recognized as a human.
Right.
But it's so much more than that. Bones are the storehouse of all the minerals in your body.
Yeah.
When your body needs calcium, phosphorus, everything, you just dissolve some bone, and that's where you get it from. So bones are also, people don't realize, they're the incubator of all your baby blood cells.
Right.
Yep. in your
Exactly.
pelvis, in your long bones. So when we take stem cells, for
Hmm.
instance, mesenchymal stem cells from your pelvis,
Yeah.
sometimes from the tibia, but that's a miracle of bone. But bone is an endocrine organ secreting hormones that talk to everybody.
Mm.
And if I were designing a person, why wouldn't I make bone the communication highway? Because you've got it
Right.
from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes. So we may have talked about the hormone osteocalcin before. I
Yes.
think I've heard you
Yep.
speak about it before. It's a hormone the bone makes, crosses the blood-brain barrier,
Right.
stimulates bone-derived neurotrophic factor to build better brain,
Yes.
right? It is intensely associated with normal metabolism, both
Right.
glucose
Hmm.
and insulin resistance. In men, it contributes to the making of testosterone,
Hmm.
but that's not all. There's another hormone I started talking because there's so many hormones that
Hmm.
bone makes. Another one I started talking about lately called LCN2
Hmm.
directly works in the brain on satiety. Now, why would the bone be interested in you being
Right.
full after a meal? It's because the bone is a storehouse of nutrients. Of
Mm.
course, it's going to
Hmm.
have a connection with how much you eat. Do you need to eat more? Gut absorption, there's a direct relationship between the bone and the gut that's being worked out right now. So, the more we learn about bone, the more fascinating it is. And so, it's not just structural, it's everything.
Mm. Yeah. So many connections
Yeah.
beyond just keeping structure in your
Yeah,
body.
that's right.
And, the more I think about the human body, literally every organ is communicating with every other organ all the
That's
time.
right.
And when one organ starts to fail, the others do as well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we think a lot about like the heart failing and the brain failing.
Mhm.
We know that these diseases like heart attacks and
Mhm.
Alzheimer's occur, but we don't have a lot of attention around our bones failing us.
Yeah,
And the bone failure often precedes brain failure by
absolutely.
decades. And so
Yes.
maintaining healthy bone can really promote health of other organs as well.
And I think bones surprise people.
Yeah.
I mean, even today in the expo, very healthy looking women who work out have come up to me because I know I talk about this and told me they're osteopenic.
Yeah.
And they're really devastated by that
Right.
because they thought they were doing everything right.
How do healthy this is a great question for you, and, it's kind of a rhetorical question, but how do healthy women have bad bones?
Yeah, let's
How does
talk
that
about
happen?
that.
Yeah, because so and let me define a healthy woman. Someone who is of normal body weight, even
Mhm.
looks lean,
Mhm.
spends maybe an hour on the treadmill every day,
Yes.
and, maybe she's trying to eat mainly a diet of of keto or something like that.
Mhm.
You kind of can visualize
Right,
the woman
she's
I'm
doing all
talking
the
about
things.
doing all the things. How does that person end up osteopenic?
Well, that's why they're so disappointed.
Right.
And what we have to remember is that osteoporosis, which is holy bone when translated
Hmm.
from whatever that is Latin, manifests later in life, but it is a disease of young people
Hmm.
because bone, a density reaches peak mass in your late 20s and 30 by 30. So, what are the reasons you might not build bone density?
Hmm.
Because it matters where you're starting. Well, I can think of a lot of reasons that young girls still living in a world where they are taught to be teeny tiny don't eat enough. Bones need food, they need minerals and protein. So maybe we're not eating enough. Or maybe we are we're 54 years into Title IX right now. So we have
Hmm.
generations of young female athletes.
Sure.
Many young female athletes are amenorrheic
Uh-huh.
for decades, right?
Hmm.
I was an athlete. I wouldn't have periods for 6 to 9 months. And at that time, I'm like, yes,
Mm.
so much less to worry
Mm.
about. What I didn't realize is that it was critical for my bones to have the estrogen that I would have been making, blah, blah, blah. So there's a whole generations of young women who don't build bone because they're amenorrheic for whatever
Mhm.
reason. And then frankly, there's nobody who's not a digital native anymore being
Yeah.
born. And so if you spend your life sedentary, which is part of the fact that we have so many children that are obese and have diabetes, well, if you're that sedentary, you're not maximizing bone density because you're not running around and jumping. So all that to say, there are many reasons that we're starting behind the eight ball.
Yeah.
And then You enter your period, if you choose to have children, of fertility. I always have to hedge when I say this because then I get a lot of angry mail about, listen, it takes about 500 milligrams of calcium a day to build a baby.
Yes.
And protein, where do you think your body's going to get that? Because it's prioritizing this baby. They're going to get it from you.
From your
They're
muscle.
going to take your muscle. They're going to take your bone. And there is such a thing as the osteoporosis of pregnancy. Now, women are designed to rebuild that after pregnancy. But think about it. You guys have children. You're so tired. You're so busy.
Yeah.
You may or may not eat. If you choose to breastfeed, which I'm a big proponent of, I breastfed for a year. If you are not eating enough protein and calcium, you're going to still leach 500 milligrams of calcium a day and not rebuild for years. And then if you have another baby, because, you know, women are having children later, if you spend between 30 and 40 having children, that's a long time to go without bone rebuilding.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So then we reach the perimenopause years and we haven't built enough bone. We've used our bone for our children and haven't rebuilt it. And then you're going to lose 15 to 20%. That is how women arrive in midlife seemingly healthy with bad bones.
Right.
I think it makes total sense when you lay it out, bone health like that.
It does, absolutely. You know, there's a device when you walk into this conference
Yeah.
that measures your bone
Quality.
quality.
Yes.
Okay, so for many years, for me, the only way as a physician I could visualize the health of someone's bone was the DEXA scan.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about how women can utilize the DEXA scan and also some of these newer measurements of bone quality?
Yes.
And are you using those in your practice?
I am.
Uh-huh.
And I actually talk to those people a lot and build programs for them for bone.
Nice.
So here's the thing. So DEXA scan tells us bone density, which uses X-ray, not a high dose, not really much dose at all, but it tells us the mineralization of bone.
Right.
How much mineralization have you made? The other side of bone health is how the bone performs under stress and strain. What's the quality of bone? Because if you, every time you take a step at a very microscopic level, the bone bends a little. And then it's because it's not just hard, it's a living tissue. And so in the femur, for instance, which looks a lot like if you're watching this, if you're not, my right arm with the wrist bent, there's a femoral head and a shaft. Every time you take a step, it does this a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Such that the bone is laid down in something called trabecular lines. If you look at an X-ray, you can see the arches where the body has put the most bone, where the tension is. DEXA scan will tell you mineralization. The ultrasound technologies, such as the REM scan, tell you quality. How much are you able to respond to the tension? So you may have poor mineralization, but still have adequate bone health because it can withstand a lot of stress and strain. Now, you would want both, right? And so bone density is not the entire picture via a DEXA scan, but it's what we've had for years. It's what all the research has been done on. So we know with osteoporosis that you have a 50% chance of a fracture, and so we can quantify that. The data with bone quality is still being built, although most of us at this point thinks it's an important nuance in bone health to have.
So the next question from there is building bone density versus building bone quality. Yes. How does someone focus on bone quality? Say your bone quality score comes out low with one of these REM scans. How does someone build that up?
You know what? That is where I think that the jumping practices are most important. We want to give the bone the environment that we're going to need it to perform in. So there are studies that show that jumping and producing 4 times body weight, which walking is about 1.2 to 1.5 times body weight, running is 2.5 or so. So you really need the impact of jumping. It takes about an 8-inch step. It doesn't have to be the 24-inch box, just 8, which is 8 inches is about the step in your house. I just posted a few weeks ago. I was doing this to demonstrate it on the steps of the New York Public Library. It
Yeah,
doesn't have
I
to be
saw that.
fancy. It's not fancy. Just jump down because you then are introducing this mechanical stimulus. You're causing your bone to bend a little and recovery, telling your bone, oh, I'm going to need some more trabeculae laid down in these tension points. Um, so it becomes those practices that are very important
Yeah.
for quality of bone.
So after watching your videos, I started doing that. I
Did
started
you?
running
Good.
upstairs and slamming my feet down on the stairs and
Yes.
almost like
Did
obnoxiously.
Nancy think you're mad? Like, what are
Yes.
you mad about?
Exactly. Yeah. So running up and down stairs and just kind of
Just
slamming your feet
jumping off
down
of
and
things.
jumping off of
Jump
things.
rope will work. I
Jump
mean,
rope, right?
if you want to do fun, if you're afraid you're going to trip, get a cordless jump rope.
Yes.
Yeah, just make yourself
Yeah.
jump.
Yeah.
Because you know what, all these things where I introduced hopscotch back to the world a few weeks ago because we need to not just jump up and down, but multi-directional is best.
Right.
We used to play that as children, just go in multiple directions. It's all play, Darsha.
It is.
It's because we were talking about running, hopping, and even skipping if you don't want to sprint, or sprinting and jumping. We just need to watch what our kids do. They've got it right, right?
Yeah.
We give up all these healthy things.
I'd venture to guess that 90% of adults can't even remember the last time they jumped or hopped or
Yeah.
any of this stuff, And so
Yeah.
definitely need to keep that in our routines, and not just when you're working out. Like you can run up and down stairs
All day
anywhere,
long.
anytime, all
Yep.
day long. Right?
Mhm.
Exactly. In
Yeah.
fact, I think it's another great benefit to taking the stairs.
Oh,
Right?
besides
Beyond just the
cardiovascular and
cardiovascular, right? Is
yeah.
you're actually building bone health.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love that you brought that up because when we sit here and talk about all these behaviors, it seems like an overwhelming
It
amount of
does.
stuff.
Yeah.
But literally, you fit this into your day,
Right.
right? It's not extra. It's just you walk a different way, you climb a different way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So scans like the bone quality scan,
Mhm.
where do people get that from? It doesn't seem like it's ubiquitous yet, but do you think it's going to become more?
I do.
Uh,
In the UK, where we are, in Australia, they're
uh,
everywhere. So
really?
listeners, they're everywhere. Um, in the UK, they're making a big push to bring them in, and understandably,
Mhm.
some of the units are portable. You don't need the big GE DEXA scan setup,
Yes.
and the special. I tried to put a DEXA scanner into my personal office, my orthopedic office, and it took a special electrical line.
Yeah.
I had to rewire the wall.
Yeah.
Uh, this is so much more easy.
Yeah.
So, they're trying hard. So right
Yeah.
now it's hard for me to say, go to these 12 places or go
Sure.
to these hundreds of places.
Yeah.
But, give them 5 years.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they'll be
They'll be
everywhere.
everywhere.
And do you actually get like a quantification numbers? You can see, I'm here right now
Yeah.
and I'm doing these jumping practices, et cetera, and I'm getting better.
Yeah, and this is easier to do every 6 months, for
Right.
instance, but they give you a bone quality score.
Uh-huh.
And the interesting thing is they also produce a T-score like a DEXA scan. You get both
Really?
in one report.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's incredible.
it is.
Yeah, I want to look into getting them in all of our Next Health clinics because I think if you can get both the T score and the quality score,
That's right.
it's such an important, super
Yes.
important measurement that we don't have.
And then they
of our
can do
health.
the Unbreakable program to build better
Yes,
bone.
exactly.
We're
Let's-
making a plan for your business.
I
there.
love it. Yeah. And so let's talk about the Unbreakable plan. Can you give
Yeah.
people like a little flavor of what
Yeah.
that is? And then they can get your book
Of
to read
course.
more about it.
Of course. So it goes without saying that we have to be concerned with an anti-inflammatory, high-protein way of eating.
Right.
That when I talk about unbreakable standards, need to be less sweet, unsugared, unsweetened, as I like to say, and take our carbs. I am not anti-carb, especially for training,
Mm.
but they have to be of fiber, right? The only time you need quick sources of sugar is if you're actually in a race somewhere and you just right. So that's baseline because we've been talking about bone a lot. The enemy of bone is inflammation.
Mm.
Right? So even your
Right.
diet's important. So anti-inflammatory, high protein way of eating. I don't even like the word diet. It's just how I eat,
Yeah.
right? And then when we take action physically, there's an acronym that I use that I've used for years to help midlife people remember what they need to do. So it's
Yeah.
FACE, face your future,
Mhm.
because we're all good at cardio. We're getting the message about lifting, but what we forget is F, flexibility and range of motion. The natural history of the collagen in our tendons, ligaments, and muscles is to increase their covalent bonding with age, and they get tighter
Mm.
and tighter and tighter.
Okay.
That's when you lose joint motion.
Mhm.
You become hunched over. You become a shuffling walker,
Mhm.
not a striding walker. We can maintain the health of our tendons, ligaments, and muscles by investing in mobility programs
Mhm.
so our joints stay fluid. That's where Pilates, yoga, specific joint mobility programs come in.
Yeah.
If that's all you're doing, and I've said this many times, making many Pilates people angry, it's never going to be enough.
No.
It's important,
Yep.
but never enough. So that's F.
Mhm.
A, aerobic. Our heart disease kills more men and women than anything else in the
Right.
country. It's still really critical, but probably not in the way we've always done it, which is right in the middle of the heart rate zones. It's not low enough that it's metabolically optimized, and it's not hard enough that you're going to stimulate your mitochondria, your satellite stem cells. So, but I see people doing it right here in the middle a
Mhm.
lot. In fact, there's whole brands of gyms built around this.
Yep.
So what I prescribe to my people is, and this is based on the science of Inigo San Milan,
Yes.
who's an endurance physiologist
Who has a lab in
who has a
your
lab in my building.
clinic? Yeah.
Uh, Base training at low heart rates,
Right.
3 hours a week, broken up into 45 minutes. So that's just brisk walking. You can do it on any apparatus, rowing, elliptical, whatever, but lower heart rate. Then twice a week, we're just going to gun it. We're going to sprint back to this conversation, but don't be afraid. It's only for 30 seconds.
Right.
Then you completely recover and then do it 4 times.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. You feel like a badass when you're done. Now, for the aerobic, in Unbreakable, my first goal is to optimize people's health. But when
Mhm.
people are all tuned up, then I go to then I add peak performance type things like we do
Mm.
for athletes. And only then is when I choose to add on VO2 max training
Mhm.
using the Norwegian protocol. It's one of the protocols because it's not that fun.
No.
But it's 4 minutes as fast as you
Yeah.
can go with only 4 minutes of recovery. So
Right.
it's hard work. But
4x4 protocol.
4x4
Yeah.
protocol once a week. So that's how we do it,
Yeah.
right? That's cardio. FAC, carry a load, meaning weightlifting. Now, when you weightlift, you got to know why you're doing it. In Unbreakable, I'm talking about building strength and power. We need to be strong as we age, and we need to have power. It's not to say that lifting for endurance is wrong. Lifting for endurance is picking up the mamby-pamby pink weight and doing it 30 times so that
Mhm.
you fail after 30 times.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that if your goal is endurance. It's not my goal.
Mm.
There's nothing wrong with lifting for hypertrophy,
Mm.
which is the big muscle,
Yeah.
tearing up muscle, healing the muscle, building bigger muscle. Nothing wrong with that. But that range is 10 to 15 reps. Our goal is strength and power. So we're going to work up from wherever we're starting to lifting really heavy weights, low reps to failure. It's always to failure. You have to condition your ligaments and tendons. You have to get your form really well. This is where I think of all the lifting techniques, you probably need to hire a strength and
Yeah.
conditioning coach to teach you first. And I did, and it was critical, right?
Mhm.
So that is in the literature a range of 3 to 6. I'm going to tell you I don't have to tell you as a clinician, but in general, people need specific instructions.
They do.
So I prescribe 4 reps, 4 sets
Mhm.
of really heavy lifting in the compound lifts. Push, pull with the upper body,
Yep.
push, pull with the lower body. And then you supplement with the single muscle lifts
Yes.
at slightly higher reps, right?
Yep.
It sounds like a lot. I can accomplish this in 30 minutes in the gym.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's how to lift for strength. And then finally, FACE equilibrium, which is balance. I'm teaching
Mm-hmm.
people to stand on one leg when you're brushing your teeth,
Mm-hmm.
do the balance reach, and foot speed. I also happen to have a Olympic agility coach, foot speed and agility coach in my building, and she has taught me and all the people I take care of agility drills like you
Mm-hmm.
see athletes doing
Mm.
to rebuild the coordination for our type 2 muscle fibers.
Right.
And the interesting thing is when you first start doing these alternating drills, heel toe, your brain stops you. It's a little hard to coordinate because you're rebuilding those coordinating pathways. So imagine in a real life situation when you're about to fall and you haven't had a
Yeah.
coordinated pathway, you're not going to catch yourself.
Right.
Versus if you have, you're like, got it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
FACE are the 4 components of building physical resilience in midlife.
It's such an incredible kind of structure paradigm for
Mm,
people to build their movement exercise
yeah.
routines out of. And what I think everyone needs to get out of this is that going to the gym is fantastic,
Yeah.
right? Thank God you're going to the gym 2 or 3 times a week, but really it needs to be structured around these 4
Yeah.
pillars
Yeah.
of exercise because, we see it all the time. And I think 90% of the people that go to the gym, they go for 30 minutes. Half of that time is spent running in zone 3 on the treadmill.
Mhm.
The other half is spent on maybe some machines or dumbbells,
Yeah.
doing single muscle
Mhm.
exercises, never to failure. And everyone's time is so
So
valuable,
important.
right? You can use the same amount of gym time
Mhm.
and restructure it to give you so many more benefits.
Yeah.
And so I love in your book how you give people like the workout program. This
Yeah.
is this is how you do it. So it's not you don't have to DIY it. It's in your book.
It
It's
is.
there.
It
Show it to
is.
your trainer. I'm a big advocate of using trainers,
Yeah.
but you have to also trainers don't have all this knowledge either, unfortunately, right? And
There's
so
no standard training for a
there's no
trainer.
standard training for trainers. They don't have God bless them, we need trainers,
Yeah.
but we really need to modernize the way they structure
Yeah.
your exercise routines.
Yeah.
And so arming them with your book,
Yeah.
with the program, especially if you are even a man or a woman
Mhm.
and you're 40 years old, it needs to be restructured. It
The FACE
needs to be.
protocol is for men and women. I treat men
Exactly.
and women. This
Right.
book just happens to be for women. And here's an interesting little caveat is the heavy lifting program in my book is my last heavy lifting program uh, prior to writing the book. So it's not
Ah.
just theoretical. I mean, I actually did it. It's the last one. Then you have to turn in the book and start a new one. But I just think that's helpful to know that
Yes.
I'm just not making stuff up.
No.
I've done all of these things. I've tested it on myself. And
Mhm.
then uh, we published an app with the book that shows myself and another midlife powerlifting woman the exercises.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so by reading the book and getting the app, you
Yeah,
can reform your exercise
that's
program
right.
into being so much more valuable for the
Hmm.
amount of time units you spend in the gym.
Who
It's
wants to waste their time? Who has time
exactly,
for that?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I go to a little gym in my town that I live in, and
Huh.
I look around all the time. I see so many people just wasting time.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
not just like being on their phone, it's just even the exercises that they're doing.
Well, and I have people. My office is in a giant
Yeah.
performance facility, and I look out over an indoor football field. And I say this enough; they probably are angry at me for saying that, but I see people 7 days a week grinding it out in the middle ranges of the exercise spectrum,
Yes.
and people are sweating out there, but they get very frustrated that they don't see results.
Right.
It's because they're working in the messy middle.
Yeah.
It's not light enough that you're not gonna get hurt, and it's not intense enough that you're gonna do some value,
Right.
so you end up getting hurt and not seeing many results, and that's frustrating.
It's so true. It's so
Yeah.
true because you end up spending a lot more time in the middle, which
Mhm.
increases the chance you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, over reps, that's what I mean. It's a lot of
Exactly.
reps,
Right.
and you're not seeing results, so yeah, it's hard. So you do
Yeah.
more. There's that
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, it's so true. Well,
yeah.
this has been so fantastic.
Thank
Again,
you.
as always,
Yeah.
Dr. Wright. And where can people, besides the book Unbreakable and
Yeah.
your app, where can they find you and hear more from you?
So I'm every day on Instagram.
Yes.
I do have a YouTube page which has hundreds of videos. I rarely talk about it, but, if you wanna see me in long form, it's on YouTube. Just search my name, you'll find me.
I love it. It's been such a pleasure working with you
Thank
and
you.
getting all the advice that you bring to us. It's so
Thanks.
valuable.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
my pleasure. Thanks for having me.